there was like a little bit of fear and adrenaline that like normally for me as a kid, I was like quite a sensitive child, would like scare me, but instead it like totally excited me. It was like a rush. And I was like, well, that's great. Just keep doing that. We live in an age where you don't have to go out and meet people in person to like get ahead in the game. A lot of people make beats in their bedroom for like 4 years and then their song blows up and then they get it done. With performance, you kind of can't get away from showing people because that's what it's all about. So I was really rushed by that. But it wasn't until I started DJing in front of people that I think I got the excitement and rush and the enjoyment. Because for a long time, it was just me in like my dad's garage where he had his turntable set up, just like training myself on Wednesdays when I'd stay at his house, just like, and it would get really annoying because he'd come down and be like, you got to turn. He's like, sound like you're playing too loudly. Yeah, stuff like that. It was real important. Kia ora, my name is Reon Bell. I am a theatre maker, actor, producer, and DJ. I am from Mount Roskill, Auckland, and I am now based in Wellington. And I did like listening to rap music, like Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. I think I had learnt by the time I was like 4 years old, but I wanted to be a DJ because it just like looks cool. And then I realized that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do first. And my mum put me in drama classes because I wasn't into sports like my brothers were. So she was like, you could do drama classes and that'll be your thing. Because she likes, you know, each of her children having like different things that they're into. So I was like, oh, acting, that's the number one thing. And then I watched Doctor Who when I was really young. And that was like, that's what I want to do. I want to like make crazy stories and do fun things and on TV. And then it was not until later when I was around 16 years old that I started learning how to DJ as well. And then I just refused to pick one. Just did both. Yeah. I decided that I was going to like buy my favorite albums on vinyl. And because my dad has a pretty hefty collection, I like begged my dad, I was like, can I please like have a little setup? So like I had like his really, you know, his less expensive turntable because he knew that giving his kids, you know, his expensive stuff was a bit risky. So I had like a tiny mixer, maybe like this big, and I like taught myself the very basics on that. So it probably was like a Tribe Called Quest or something. Putting it on vinyl was probably one of the first ones. A lot of theatre is making an atmosphere in the room in the moment, and so music is like a really integral part of it. The first thing Roy did for Flames was make me a playlist of the character that he had written. And that was like the easiest way for me to understand initially what I was getting into. So I like doing that as well. When I make my own theatre and I'm inviting someone to work on something I've made, I go, here's a playlist and here's like 10 things you should watch. So I think it's very important, to me. So at a young age, probably, yeah, I was obsessed with Larry Bird because he's just insane at shooting 3-point shots. And but as I got older and I sort of lost, the interest in wanting to like beat my brothers at physical activity, it was entirely artistic from that point. Like everyone, like my greatest heroes would be all like artistic creators. I think the thing about Michael Jordan is definitely like my dad collects the Jordans and then sells them and then collects them again. And so like I could relate to my dad in that way again because he like quite likes to be obsessed with things and he likes being interested in stuff. So if he's like really likes Michael Jordan, well then he has to get the best Jordans and then he has to get he's got all the documentaries and the magazine covers where he's like sitting there with like 6 rings on, smoking a cigar. Like something about like the prestige is like not different, I think, at all to like obsessions over actors or actresses or like musical icons. I think they're all sort of from the same pool. And I really don't know what it was about Larry Bird that made me like him. I think it's just because he was so humble and from like he's like such a country guy. And then he just goes and plays like in the most like, at the time, like starry celebrity time for the NBA. And he was just shooting basketball endlessly over and over again. And there's one moment in the 3-point competition where he gets like all of them in a row, and then he shoots it, and before it's landed, he just walks away with his finger in the air. I just think it's the coolest shit like ever seen. It's so cold. He just walks away and like doesn't even watch it as it goes in, and he wins. Stories are what interest me. So stories about my whānau are like my way in for that. And with music as well. Damn Native put me on really hard as a teenager. They're like, this is what it means to be like urbanized, and like this is how I feel about like the crown, and then this is how I feel about like economic states. And so it was like you could like hear it, and then it's like a way in for me because I know by then I knew hip hop music. It's like a sandwich of like, here's one thing you love, and here's like something about yourself you didn't know yet. And then that's just how I've been trying to run it. It's just like constantly be in a state of learning and like how it could apply to my day-to-day life. And I think now I am like more aware of that than ever. Because I think even when I got to Toi as a 18-year-old, I was like, yeah, I know I'm Māori, like I know what I need to know. And then I'm like, oh, there's just so much more to learn. And that's not a bad thing either. And only recently have I learned that not only is our family tu whare toa, but also ka hungunu ki te wairua as well. Because my cousin went to Hastings, and there was like, they had a plot of all the marae, and there was one that was like way down here. And she was like, that's our marae. And she's like, yeah. And she was like, no, it's not, it's mine. And she was like, what? And yeah, so there's some, just learning more each time. And it makes me very happy. And I think it makes me a more complete person. Like, I don't know, I was talking to my friend the other day, and it was like getting really intense. And this is like maybe a bit cheesy, but it's like, I don't know who I would be without like being Māori, being a part of it. You know what I mean? Instead of being something that I knew I was, and it being some sort of just abstract idea as a young child, which you're not prone to understanding things as a kid anyway. It's like fully a part of Reon. It's like inseparable, which I think is really good for me. Yeah, it's my spiel. I remember being younger and hearing like terms like environmental racism and being like, that doesn't make sense, it's just nature. But it's got a lot to do with the way cities are like planned and the way systems are in place. The way that we operate has everything to do with not only the environment, but also the way environment affects us. The people living in Mount Roskill, where I grew up, depending on the area in terms of insurance, it's pretty easy to go and to realize yet again, like the way that the system fails people, and the way that if you are simply too poor to afford insurance, the things that are necessary for people to live, for children to be raised, the fact that we as a, not just as a country or like in a community, like across the world, that's probably like one of the biggest failings, I think, of modern day life, is that like some children don't eat. So that's at the forefront of my mind, sort of that kind of world. I think a lot about the current very rising political attack on queer people. Trixie Mattel tweeted these, and this is an American drag queen, but I think the politics are mirrored here as well, and in Australia, that attacks on like drag as an art form and on queer people in general on the internet are like just a scapegoat for them to be distracted by other things that are even worse. Because it's one thing to like ban drag performances based on a misunderstanding of that practice as an art form, and then it's just a stepping stone, I think, to taking away rights from people who fully deserve them, and taking away measures that in many places in the world and in Aotearoa as well have like saved lives. Like, I think there's like a misunderstanding between the issue they raise up being, you know, about what we are consciously doing for our kids by exposing them to queer art. That is the problem. That being a problem they're raising is just simply like something to latch onto for them to sort of push their hateful message forward, when in fact the very thing they're protesting against can be proven to save lives, especially young lives. Puberty blockers, understanding like counselors, like people who understand, like the idea that queer people are more likely to, in their own life, being like a problem of them being queer is like is such a grotesque misunderstanding that it actually makes me so angry to even think about, because the moment I started knowing I was queer was like the moment, again, it all like completed for me. And I can't imagine what it must be like to have to live as a trans person and then like see something that is like the reason you've managed to become who you are be like hated on and banned and talked about like it's nothing, and to have your life and your existence talked about like it's some passable number is disgusting. So I'm thinking about that a lot as well, and of my friends who are queer, who are trans. That's at the forefront of my mind